Question 1. During a sprint retrospective, the team identifies that the definition of done is too weak, leading to technical debt and integration issues late in the sprint. 2 senior developers propose strengthening it immediately, but others are concerned this will dramatically reduce their velocity. What is the Scrum Master's best course of action? Postpone the decision until the next sprint retrospective to give the team more time to think. B. Facilitate a discussion on the impact of the weak definition of done and help the team find a consensus on the next incremental improvement they can make, even if it's small. C. Side with the senior developers as improving quality is a core principle of Scrum and is non-negotiable. D. Ask the product owner to decide on the new definition of done, as they are accountable for the value delivered. Answer. B. Facilitate a discussion on the impact of the weak definition of done and help the team find a consensus on the next incremental improvement they can make, even if it's small. The Scrum Master's role is to facilitate, not to make decisions for the team or take sides. Facilitating a discussion helps the team self-manage and take ownership of their processes and quality standards. The key here is understanding that the definition of done is owned by the developers, and improvements should be a collective decision aimed at increasing transparency and quality. While a perfect definition of done is the goal, Scrum is about iterative progress. Therefore, helping the team agree on the next small, manageable improvement is a practical and effective coaching stance. Remember that a Scrum Master guides the team to their own solutions rather than imposing the right one. Question 2. A Scrum team consistently fails to complete all the items they forecast for a sprint. During the sprint planning, the product owner is pressuring the team to take on more work than they are comfortable with to meet a deadline. What should the Scrum Master do? Tell the product owner that they are overstepping their role and that the developers have the final say on how much work they can take on. B. Coach the product owner on the concept of empiricism, explaining how historical data, like team velocity, helps create a realistic forecast and that overloading the team leads to lower quality and morale. C. Allow the team to take on the extra work but secretly advise them to work at a sustainable pace and not burn out. D. Split the team into 2, with one team focusing on the product owner's high-priority items and the other working on the rest of the forecast. Answer B. Coach the product owner on the concept of empiricism, explaining how historical data, like team velocity, helps create a realistic forecast and that overloading the team leads to lower quality and morale. The most effective long-term solution is to coach the product owner on the principles behind Scrum. This approach addresses the root cause of the behavior and helps the product owner become more effective in their role. The keyword pressuring signals a coaching opportunity, not a conflict to be won. By explaining that forecasts are based on empirical evidence from past sprints, the Scrum Master helps the product owner understand that sustainable pace and focus lead to better outcomes than pressure and overburdening the team. As a Scrum Master, always look for opportunities to educate and improve the understanding of the entire Scrum team, including the product owner. Question 3. The organization has decided to adopt Scrum for all its projects and has created a Scrum Master office to standardize practices, tools, and reporting across all teams. They have asked you as a senior Scrum Master to lead this office. What is your primary concern with this initiative? A. This office will become a bottleneck for decisions and approvals. B. Standardizing practices and tools can stifle a team's self-management and ability to find what works best for their specific context. C. The office might not have enough budget to purchase the best tools for all the teams. D. It centralizes the Scrum Master role, making it easier to assign Scrum Masters to new teams. Answer B. Standardizing practices and tools can stifle a team's self-management and ability to find what works best for their specific context. A core principle of Scrum is empowering teams to be self-managing and to continuously improve their own processes. A centralized office that mandates specific practices or tools can undermine this autonomy. While some level of consistency can be helpful, forcing a one-size-fits-all approach ignores the unique context of each team and product, potentially reducing their effectiveness and ability to adapt. For example, one team might find a physical board most effective, while a distributed team needs a specific digital tool. A great Scrum Master would be concerned that such standardization would prevent teams from owning their process and making choices that best suit their needs. Question 4. During a daily Scrum, a developer states they are blocked by a dependency on another team. The other team has a different set of priorities and has not provided the needed component. What is the most effective first step for the Scrum Master? A. Immediately escalate the issue to senior management to force the other team to change their priorities. B. Tell the developer to find a different product backlog item to work on while waiting for the dependency. C. Facilitate a conversation between members of both teams to foster understanding and find a mutually agreeable solution. D. Add resolving inter-team dependencies as a topic for the next sprint retrospective. Answer. C. Facilitate a conversation between members of both teams to foster understanding and find a mutually agreeable solution. The Scrum Master's role includes removing impediments, and often the most effective way to do this is by empowering the people closest to the problem to solve it themselves. Facilitating direct communication between the teams encourages collaboration and self-organization at a broader level. Escalating to management should be a last resort, as it can create animosity and does not build the collaborative muscle the organization needs. For example, by getting the right people talking, they might discover a simple workaround or a way to slightly adjust their plans to help each other out. Your first instinct as a servant leader should be to connect people and facilitate collaboration, not to take over the problem or immediately escalate. Question 5. The product owner has been consistently absent from daily scrums and is slow to answer questions from the developers. The team feels this is slowing them down and impacting their ability to meet the sprint goal. As the Scrum Master, what is your most appropriate action? Remind the team that the daily scrum is for the developers, and the product owner is not required to attend. B. Have a private conversation with the product owner to understand their perspective and coach them on the impact their lack of availability is having on the team and the sprint goal. C. Schedule a mandatory meeting with the product owner and the developers to formally address the communication breakdown. D. Report the product owner's lack of engagement to their line manager. Answer. B. Have a private conversation with the product owner to understand their perspective and coach them on the impact their lack of availability is having on the team and the sprint goal. This approach embodies the Scrum Master's role as a coach and servant leader. It starts with seeking to understand rather than to blame, assuming positive intent. A private conversation creates a safe space for the product owner to share any challenges they might be facing and for the Scrum Master to explain how their engagement directly affects the team's ability to deliver value. This direct, empathetic coaching is far more effective for building a stronger team and a more effective product owner than public confrontation or escalation. A key takeaway is that effective Scrum Masters address behavioral issues through coaching and dialogue first. Question 6. A company is transitioning to Scrum. A manager of the developers is concerned about their role and has started attending daily scrums to help the team stay on track. During the meeting, the manager asks each developer for a status report on their tasks. What is the best way for the Scrum Master to handle this? A. Allow the manager to continue as their involvement could be seen as helpful organizational support. B. Publicly correct the manager during the daily scrum, explaining that it is a planning event for the developers, not a status meeting. C. Speak with the manager privately after the meeting, explain the purpose of the daily scrum, and offer to coach them on how they can best support the team in a scrum environment. D. Cancel the daily scrums until the manager agrees to stop attending. Answer. C. Speak with the manager privately after the meeting, explain the purpose of the daily scrum, and offer to coach them on how they can best support the team in a scrum environment. The Scrum Master's role extends to coaching the wider organization, including managers. Addressing the situation privately respects the manager's position while effectively correcting the misunderstanding. This approach avoids public confrontation, which could damage relationships, and instead opens the door for a constructive conversation about how the manager's role can evolve to support self-managing teams. The Scrum Master can explain that the daily scrum is for the developers to plan their day and that a manager's presence can change the dynamic from a peer-to-peer collaboration to a status report. Always aim to educate and build allies for Scrum within the organization, and private coaching is a powerful tool for this. Question 7. The sprint review is consistently running over the time box. The primary cause is that stakeholders use the meeting to debate new ideas and future requirements at length. How can the Scrum Master improve the effectiveness of the sprint review? A. Extend the time box for the sprint review to accommodate the stakeholder discussions. B. Coach the product owner on how to facilitate the meeting more effectively, focusing the conversation on the increment and progress toward the product goal, while noting new ideas for later refinement. C. Prohibit stakeholders from discussing any new ideas during the sprint review. D. Ask the developers to present the increment more quickly to leave more time for stakeholder discussions. Answer B. Coach the product owner on how to facilitate the meeting more effectively, focusing the conversation on the increment and progress toward the product goal, while noting new ideas for later refinement. The product owner is accountable for a successful sprint review, which is a crucial feedback event, not an open-ended requirements workshop. The Scrum Master's role is to coach the product owner to improve their effectiveness. By guiding the product owner on facilitation techniques, the Scrum Master empowers them to keep the event focused on its primary purpose, inspecting the increment and adapting the product backlog. New ideas are valuable, but they should be captured and then discussed in more appropriate forums like backlog refinement, not allowed to derail the sprint review. This ensures the event remains productive and respects everyone's time. A good tip is to think about who owns the event. Coach that person to improve it rather than taking over yourself. Question 8. A team's velocity has been steadily increasing, but the product owner reports that customer satisfaction is declining. What is the most likely cause? The team is not working hard enough and the velocity numbers are misleading. B. The team is accumulating technical debt by compromising on their definition of done in order to complete more items. C. The product owner is not ordering the product backlog effectively to maximize value. D. Stakeholders are not providing clear feedback during sprint reviews. Answer B. The team is accumulating technical debt by compromising on their definition of done in order to complete more items. This scenario points to a classic anti-pattern where a team focuses on output velocity over outcome, value, and quality. A rising velocity coupled with declining satisfaction often means the team is cutting corners, leading to a low-quality product that is difficult to use or has defects. This accumulation of technical debt makes the product less valuable and harder to change over time. The definition of done is the team's commitment to quality, and weakening it is a primary source of this problem. Remember, velocity is a tool for forecasting, not a measure of success. True success is a valuable, high-quality product that delights customers. Question 9. A mature Scrum team is performing well. They are self-managing, deliver a valuable done increment each sprint, and resolve most of their own impediments. What is the most important focus for the Scrum Master of this team? Look for a new team to work with, as this team no longer needs a Scrum Master. B. Continue looking for opportunities for the team to improve and focus on removing organizational impediments that are beyond the team's direct influence. C. Reduce the frequency of Scrum events to give the high-performing team more time for development. D. Take on some of the product owner's responsibilities to free them up for more strategic work. Answer B. Continue looking for opportunities for the team to improve and focus on removing organizational impediments that are beyond the team's direct influence. A Scrum Master's work is never truly done. Even for a mature team, there are always further levels of improvement. The focus shifts from teaching basic Scrum mechanics to more advanced coaching, mentoring, and, crucially, addressing systemic organizational impediments. These are problems rooted in company policies, structure, or culture that limit the team's full potential, such as cross-department handoffs or outdated HR policies. By tackling these larger issues, the Scrum Master provides significant value and helps create an environment where all Scrum teams can thrive. Think of the Scrum Master's role as evolving from a team coach to an organizational change agent. Question 10. The product owner wants to add a new, urgent item to the sprint backlog after the sprint has already started. The developers state that this would endanger the sprint goal. What is the Scrum Master's role in this situation? Make the final decision on whether the new item should be added to protect the team. B. Tell the developers they must accept the new work because the product owner is accountable for value. C. Facilitate a negotiation between the product owner and the developers to discuss the trade-offs and respect the developer's final decision on what they can accomplish. D. Advise the product owner to cancel the sprint so they can replan with the new item included. Answer. C. Facilitate a negotiation between the product owner and the developers to discuss the trade-offs and respect the developer's final decision on what they can accomplish. The Scrum Master acts as a facilitator and ensures the Scrum framework is followed. While the product owner can request changes, the developers own the sprint backlog and have the final say on what can be accomplished within a sprint without jeopardizing the sprint goal. The Scrum Master's job is to ensure this conversation happens constructively. By facilitating a negotiation, they help both parties understand the impact and consequences, leading to a collaborative decision that respects the Scrum rules and the team's integrity. Canceling a sprint is a significant decision and should only be considered if the sprint goal becomes obsolete. Question 11. What is the primary difference between the service a Scrum Master provides to the developers versus the service they provide to the product owner? For developers, the Scrum Master removes impediments. For the product owner, they manage stakeholders. B. For developers, the Scrum Master facilitates events. For the product owner, they write product backlog items. C. For developers, the focus is on coaching in self-management and cross-functionality. For the product owner, the focus is on techniques for effective product goal definition and product backlog management. D. For developers, the Scrum Master enforces the time boxes. For the product owner, the Scrum Master creates the product roadmap. Answer. C. For developers, the focus is on coaching in self-management and cross-functionality. For the product owner, the focus is on techniques for effective product goal definition and product backlog management. This answer accurately captures the distinct coaching stances a Scrum Master takes. With the developers, the goal is to foster an environment where they can become a self-sufficient, high-performing team. With the product owner, the goal is to help them be more effective in their unique accountability for maximizing product value. This involves coaching on specific techniques like story mapping, user story writing, and stakeholder collaboration to ensure the product backlog clearly communicates the path toward the product goal. The key insight is that the Scrum Master service is tailored to the specific needs and accountabilities of the different roles within the Scrum team. Question 12. During sprint planning, the developers cannot agree on a technical approach for a complex product backlog item. The discussion becomes heated and no progress is being made. What should the Scrum Master do? A. Table the item for the next sprint and move on to ensure the sprint planning meeting finishes on time. B. Ask the most senior developer to make the final decision to resolve the conflict. C. Suggest that the team create a spike, a time-boxed research task, as one of the items for the upcoming sprint to investigate the different approaches and gather more information. D. Propose a vote and proceed with the majority opinion. Answer. C. Suggest that the team create a spike, a time-boxed research task, as one of the items for the upcoming sprint to investigate the different approaches and gather more information. When faced with high uncertainty, the best approach in an empirical framework like Scrum is to do something to learn more. A spike is a specific type of product backlog item designed for exactly this purpose, to reduce technical or functional uncertainty. By suggesting a spike, the Scrum Master facilitates a way forward that de-escalates the conflict, acknowledges the uncertainty, and allows the team to make an informed decision later based on evidence rather than opinion. This action reinforces the principles of empiricism and self-management, as the team is empowered to create a plan to resolve its own problem. It's a great technique to remember when a team is stuck due to a lack of information. Question 13. A stakeholder complains that the Scrum team is not transparent because they are not providing detailed weekly status reports and Gantt charts. As the Scrum Master, how do you respond? Agree to provide the reports, as keeping stakeholders happy is essential for the project's success. B. Explain that Scrum provides transparency through artifacts like the product backlog and events like the Sprint Review, and invite the stakeholder to these events. C. Create a simplified Gantt chart to satisfy the stakeholder's request while minimizing the administrative burden on the team. D. Inform the stakeholder that their request is not aligned with Agile principles and that they need to adapt to the team's way of working. Answer B. Explain that Scrum provides transparency through artifacts like the product backlog and events like the Sprint Review, and invite the stakeholder to these events. The core of this issue is a misunderstanding of how transparency is achieved in Scrum. Instead of creating extra reports, pushing information, Scrum provides transparency by making the work in progress visible and inviting stakeholders to inspect it directly, pulling information. The Scrum Master should coach the stakeholder on this concept, explaining that artifacts like the product backlog and the increment, combined with active participation in the Sprint Review, offer a much more accurate and timely view of progress than a static weekly report. This educates the stakeholder and reinforces the Scrum framework, promoting genuine collaboration. Always try to invite people into the Scrum process rather than creating non-Scrum processes for them. Question 14. What does it mean for a Scrum Master to be a servant leader? The Scrum Master does whatever the team asks them to do, including administrative tasks and getting coffee. B. The Scrum Master focuses on the needs of the team members and the organization, with the aim of helping them achieve their goals and develop as individuals. C. The Scrum Master has no formal authority and must therefore serve the team to gain their respect. D. The Scrum Master is primarily a servant to the product owner, ensuring their requirements are met. Answer B. The Scrum Master focuses on the needs of the team members and the organization, with the aim of helping them achieve their goals and develop as individuals. Servant leadership is a leadership philosophy that flips the traditional power pyramid upside down. Instead of the team working for the leader exists to support and serve the team. This means focusing on their growth, well-being, and ability to perform at their highest potential, while also considering the needs of the broader organization. It is not about being subservient or a simple assistant. It is about empowering others, fostering a collaborative environment, and removing obstacles so the team can succeed. A good way to think about it is that servant leaders measure their success by the success and growth of their team. Question 15. The developers have finished all items in their sprint backlog 2 days before the end of the sprint. What is the best course of action? A. End the sprint early and start the next sprint immediately to maximize productivity. B. Encourage the developers to work with the product owner to select and pull in additional high-priority items from the product backlog. C. Encourage the developers to spend the remaining time on technical debt reduction, learning, or improving their development tools and processes. D. Tell the developers to take the rest of the sprint off to rest and recharge for the next one. Answer C. Encourage the developers to spend the remaining time on technical debt reduction, learning, or improving their development tools and processes. A fixed-length sprint provides a consistent rhythm and a container for continuous improvement. Even if the forecast is complete, the sprint should continue to its planned end. This extra time is a valuable opportunity for the team to invest in quality and future productivity. Working on reducing technical debt, improving automation, or learning a new skill directly contributes to the team's ability to deliver more value in future sprints. While pulling in new work is an option, focusing on improvement activities often provides better long-term benefits and reinforces the team's ownership of its process and quality. A great Scrum team always looks for ways to get better, not just busier. Question 16. The organization uses a matrix structure, and the developers on the Scrum team report to different functional managers who give them non-project-related work, disrupting the sprint. What is the most appropriate long-term solution for the Scrum Master to pursue? A. Ask the developers to work overtime to complete both their sprint work and the tasks from their managers. B. Report the functional managers to HR for disrupting the sprints. C. Work with organizational leadership to champion the creation of stable, dedicated, and long-lived Scrum teams that are not disrupted by conflicting assignments. D. Use the Sprint Retrospective to find ways for the developers to complete their sprint work more quickly to free up time for their functional tasks. Answer C. Work with organizational leadership to champion the creation of stable, dedicated, and long-lived Scrum teams that are not disrupted by conflicting assignments. This problem is a classic organizational impediment that goes beyond the team's ability to solve. The Scrum Master serves the organization by helping to remove such systemic barriers. The most effective long-term solution is to address the root cause, which is the conflicting organizational structure. By coaching leadership on the benefits of stable, focused teams, such as improved cohesion, ownership, and predictability, the Scrum Master acts as a change agent, helping the organization adapt its structure to better support agility. This is a key aspect of the PSM II level, moving from team-level coaching to organizational design and influence. Question 17. A Scrum team has multiple members who are not co-located. They are finding it difficult to collaborate effectively and feel disconnected. As a Scrum Master, what is your best approach? A. Insist that all team members must travel to be in the same office. B. Facilitate a working session where the team designs and agrees upon its own set of communication tools and working agreements for distributed collaboration. C. Take responsibility for relaying messages between team members to ensure nothing is missed. D. Mandate the use of a specific video conferencing tool for all meetings. Answer. B. Facilitate a working session where the team designs and agrees upon its own set of communication tools and working agreements for distributed collaboration. This approach empowers the team to solve its own problem, which is a core tenet of self-management. The Scrum Master's role is to facilitate this process, not to prescribe a solution. By helping the team create their own rules of engagement, for instance defining core working hours, standard response times for messages, and when to use video calls versus chat, the Scrum Master fosters a sense of ownership and accountability. This leads to a more sustainable and effective solution because it is tailored to the team's specific context and preferences. Remember, a facilitator's job is to provide the structure for a conversation, enabling the team to arrive at the best answer for themselves. Question 18. What is the primary purpose of the Scrum values? Commitment, courage, focus, openness, and respect. They are a set of rules that must be strictly enforced by the Scrum Master. B. They are a guide for the Scrum team's behavior and interactions, creating an environment of psychological safety and trust. C. They are a list of metrics used to evaluate the performance of individual team members. D. They are primarily for managers outside the team to understand the team's culture. Answer. B. They are a guide for the Scrum team's behavior and interactions, creating an environment of psychological safety and trust. The Scrum values are the foundation upon which the pillars of empiricism, transparency, inspection, and adaptation stand. They are not rules to be enforced but rather values to be embodied. When team members are committed, have the courage to tackle tough problems, focus on the work of the sprint, are open about challenges, and respect each other's skills and opinions, it builds trust and psychological safety. This environment is essential for honest inspection and fearless adaptation, which are at the heart of Scrum's success. As a Scrum Master, your role is to nurture these values through your actions and coaching. Question 19. A product owner is struggling to get meaningful feedback from stakeholders during the sprint review. The stakeholders are passive and few questions are asked. What is the most constructive advice a Scrum Master could give the product owner? A. You should make attendance mandatory for key stakeholders. B. Perhaps you could try framing the review around specific questions about the product goal and asking stakeholders for direct advice on what to do next. C. The Scrum Master should facilitate the sprint review from now on to ensure better engagement. D. You should send a detailed report before the meeting so stakeholders come prepared with feedback. Answer. B. Perhaps you could try framing the review around specific questions about the product goal and asking stakeholders for direct advice on what to do next. This advice is a form of powerful coaching. It doesn't give a direct order but offers a suggestion that empowers the product owner to change their approach. By shifting from a simple demonstration to a collaborative working session with targeted questions, the product owner can actively pull feedback from stakeholders. This turns a passive event into an engaging one, generating the valuable insights needed to adapt the product backlog. For example, asking, given this increment and our progress towards the goal of increasing user retention, what is the most important problem for us to solve next? Is far more effective than any questions. Question 20. The CEO of the company, who is a key stakeholder, attends a sprint review and, after seeing the increment, directs the team to work on a new feature that is not in the product backlog. What should the Scrum Master do? Tell the CEO that their request must be ignored because it was not planned. B. Add the feature to the top of the product backlog immediately as the request comes from the CEO. C. Respectfully guide the CEO to discuss the new feature with the product owner, who can then determine its value and priority relative to other items in the product backlog. D. Ask the developers to estimate the work for the new feature during the sprint review. Answer. C. Respectfully guide the CEO to discuss the new feature with the product owner, who can then determine its value and priority relative to other items in the product backlog. This action correctly upholds the Scrum framework by reinforcing the product owner's accountability. The product owner is the single point of contact for all work requested of the team and is responsible for managing the product backlog to maximize value. The Scrum Master's role is to protect this process and coach stakeholders, regardless of their position, on how to interact with the Scrum team effectively. By facilitating a conversation between the CEO and the product owner, the Scrum Master ensures that all potential work is evaluated and prioritized properly, preventing chaos and maintaining focus. Think of the product owner as the gatekeeper of the product backlog. The Scrum Master ensures everyone knows and respects that. Question 21. Which statement best describes the relationship between the sprint goal and the sprint backlog? The sprint backlog is a detailed plan to achieve the sprint goal. If the work to achieve the goal changes, the sprint backlog can be updated. B. The sprint goal is simply the sum of all the items in the sprint backlog. C. Once the sprint backlog is created, it is fixed, and the sprint goal must be adjusted if the team cannot complete all items. D. The sprint goal is optional for mature teams who have a good understanding of the product backlog. Answer. The sprint backlog is a detailed plan to achieve the sprint goal. If the work to achieve the goal changes, the sprint backlog can be updated. The sprint goal provides the why for the sprint, giving the team a coherent objective and flexibility in how they achieve it. The sprint backlog is the what and the how, a forecast of the work needed to meet that goal. During the sprint, the developers may discover new work is required or that some planned work is unnecessary. The sprint backlog is emergent and can be modified as long as the changes do not endanger the sprint goal. This relationship is crucial for enabling the team to adapt and self-manage toward a valuable outcome. Remember that the sprint goal provides focus and stability, while the sprint backlog provides flexibility. Question 22. Several Scrum teams are working on the same product. They are experiencing significant integration problems and are delivering conflicting features. What is the most effective technique for a Scrum Master to introduce to address this? A. Create a separate integration team to handle all the integration work at the end of each sprint. B. Implement a shared integrated increment that all teams contribute to and a more robust, common definition of done that includes successful integration. C. Designate one team as the lead team and have them approve all the work from the other teams. D. Have all teams report to a single project manager who can coordinate their work. Answer B. Implement a shared, integrated increment that all teams contribute to and a more robust, common definition of done that includes successful integration. When multiple teams work on one product, the goal is to produce one integrated, valuable increment each sprint. This requires the teams to collaborate closely. A shared definition of done that includes integration ensures that everyone is working to the same quality standard and that done means the work from all teams functions together. This approach, often used in scaled Scrum frameworks, increases transparency and forces teams to resolve dependencies and integration issues throughout the sprint, rather than at the end. It directly tackles the root cause of the problem by making integration a shared, ongoing responsibility. This is a key principle of scaling Scrum effectively. Integrate early and often. Question 23. A team member consistently works in isolation, does not share information and only provides updates during the daily Scrum. Other team members feel this behavior is creating a knowledge silo and a bottleneck. How should a Scrum Master first address this? Raise the issue during the sprint retrospective, framing it as a general observation about team collaboration and communication for the whole team to discuss. B. Talk to the individual privately to understand their behavior and coach them on the importance of collaboration and collective ownership in Scrum. C. Assign the individual a buddy from the team to force them to collaborate on all their tasks. D. Inform the individual's functional manager about their poor teamwork. Answer. B. Talk to the individual privately to understand their behavior and coach them on the importance of collaboration and collective ownership in Scrum. The most effective and respectful first step is a private conversation. This approach assumes positive intent and seeks to understand the reasons behind the behavior, which could range from misunderstanding Scrum principles to personal shyness. It provides a safe space for the Scrum Master to coach the individual on the value of collaboration and how their actions impact the rest of the team. Publicly addressing individual behavior in a retrospective can feel like an accusation and may not be productive, while escalating to a manager should be a last resort. Effective coaching starts with empathy and a one-on-one dialogue. Question 24. A Scrum Master notices that the sprint retrospectives have become stale. The team uses the same what went well, what didn't format every time, and the discussions are repetitive and low energy. What is the best action for the Scrum Master to take? Reduce the frequency of retrospectives as the team is clearly not getting value from them. B. Ask the product owner to lead the retrospective to bring a new perspective. C. Introduce new facilitation techniques and formats to the retrospective to make it more engaging and to help the team inspect their process from different angles. D. Cancel the retrospective and just ask the team for written feedback via email. Answer. C. Introduce new facilitation techniques and formats to the retrospective to make it more engaging and to help the team inspect their process from different angles. The Scrum Master is accountable for the effectiveness of the Scrum events, and this includes ensuring the retrospective is a valuable opportunity for inspection and adaptation. When an event becomes stale, it is the Scrum Master's responsibility to reinvigorate it. Introducing a variety of facilitation techniques such as sailboat, starfish, or 4LS can help the team look at their work from new perspectives, generating fresh insights and more actionable improvements. This is a core competency of an advanced Scrum Master, having a toolkit of facilitation methods and knowing when to use them to serve the team's needs. Remember, a good facilitator is always thinking about how to make interactions more valuable and engaging. Question 25. Which of the following is the best example of an effective sprint goal? A. Complete user stories 45, 52, and 61. B. Implement the payment processing functionality. C. Improve the performance of the search page. D. Enable customers to find and purchase a product through our new checkout pipeline, providing a seamless one-click buying experience. Answer. D. Enable customers to find and purchase a product through our new checkout pipeline, providing a seamless one-click buying experience. An effective sprint goal is an outcome-oriented objective that provides focus, flexibility, and a sense of purpose. This option best describes a valuable outcome for the stakeholder, the why behind the sprint. It provides a coherent mission for the developers, allowing them to collaborate and make trade-offs during the sprint to achieve this objective. In contrast, simply listing stories is a task list, not a goal, while the other options are too vague or feature-focused. A powerful sprint goal unites the team and guides them in making decisions throughout the sprint to deliver a cohesive, valuable increment.